It is 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, September 30th. Almost done with the month of September. It's a nice, brisk, cool morning in beautiful downtown Boonville, Missouri. I don't know how your weather is, but it's sunny and kind of crisp. So we talked about xenoestrogens on Friday. We talked about DIM supplements on Monday. And that's, of course, still an option. That's a natural way to balance your hormones. So we're going to talk about how you can balance your hormones in a natural way, especially for those of you, and I'm not just talking to women, I'm talking to men as well. So as we get past 40, we tend to get hormone imbalances. And if you're imbalanced on your hormones, you know life's all about balance. You start feeling older. And so the idea is, how can we continue on a health journey and not feel older and perhaps not even look as old as we are? So there's supplements to do it. It's the way you eat. So hormones are a big deal. I do a whole chapter on hormones for my physiology class. We're not there yet, but we did talk about some hormones because we're right in the middle of brain physiology. And so there's a lot of hormonal action going on inside your head. And the idea is to keep it healthy and balanced. I did put up a protocol for perimenopausal women. So this would be women from about 38 to 52 who are worried about hormone balance, and they're starting to feel the effects of ovarian dysfunction. So their ovaries are not as active, I guess, or as efficient at making hormones. Those are just the sex hormones per se. So a lot of them do hormone supplementation, but I understand people that are worried about hormones because you've heard a bunch of negative stuff about hormones. Hormones are just hormones, they're messengers. So there are a lot of myths out there about hormones. So if you're worried about taking them or supplementing them or replacing them, this little class is for you. This is a way to sort of not have to do that. Okay? So we're going to talk about 12 ways to naturally balance your hormones. And you know I'm going to talk about how you eat and how you exercise. And that's part of it, but there's also other things that you can do. So there's, hormones, like I teach, do not really do anything. They're messengers. They're chemical messengers. They play a huge role in controlling your appetite, your weight, your mood, how you sleep, your sex drive. They pretty much message your body and how to react to certain situations. And if you're off balance, yes, Linda, you are. Good morning. That's actually violating your privacy, I think. And I'm sorry, I took my meds, and so I've got this stupid cough that I get from my medication. Morning, Wendy. So hormones, like I said, they're messengers. They don't really do anything, but they do affect target organs and how your body performs, basically. So they have profound effects on your mind, your physical and your emotional health. And so normally you expect your endocrine glands to produce the exact amount of hormones that are needed for the various processes going on inside of your body. Well, as we get older, part of the aging process is that becomes, I'm not going to say deficient, but dysfunctional. In my little protocol that I put up earlier this morning, I attached an article from Women's International Pharmacy written by a friend of mine who's on our wellness panel on Thursday nights, titled "It's All About Balance," and she's specifically talking about different kinds of hormones. Okay, so hormonal imbalance is even more common because of the fast-paced modern lifestyle that we live. So you decline with age, and if your lifestyle, if you don't take time out for yourself, then that's going to affect your hormone balance. So yes, nutritional diet or a nutritious diet and exercise, movement really, is part of this list. But this is 12 natural ways to balance your hormones. This is from Healthline. They do evidence-based information, so there are citations for everything I'm getting ready to tell you. First one is eat protein at every meal. And we've talked about low-carb diets, we've talked about ketogenic diets, and moderate protein intake, 20 to 30 grams a day, is part of the deal, because protein provides amino acids that your body can't make on its own. So there's essential and non-essential amino acids. We're talking about the essential amino acids that you have to take in. So that's to maintain muscle and bone and skin health, and they are also involved in hormones that control appetite and food intake. So if you eat protein, it decreases a level of a hunger hormone, ghrelin, and stimulates the production of hormones that make you feel full, including a hormone called protein YY, and then glucagon-like protein -1. Okay, so there's a study cited that shows that men produce more of those two hormones after eating a high protein meal than after eating a meal that contains a normal amount of protein, whatever that may be. So the hunger ratings in that study decreased by 25% by eating a more higher protein meal compared to a normal protein meal. Okay. Another study, women who consumed a diet of 30% protein, so that's moderate, experience an increase of glucagon-like protein and greater feelings of satiety than when they ate a diet of 10% protein. Okay? They also experienced an increase in their metabolism, and they burned more fat. So some of my fat-burning injections have those essential amino acids in them for that reason. Okay, so the recommendation is 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. Okay, so what do I mean by protein? Alright, I'm going to give you 20 things that you can eat that are high in protein. The first one is eggs. All kinds, whole eggs, white and yolk, cooked, hard-boiled, soft-boiled, fried, however you want to do it. Okay, any time of the day. And we'll talk about that at number 12. Almonds, chicken breast, oats, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, milk, broccoli. We talked about cruciferous vegetables. That's on the list. Broccoli is high in protein compared to other vegetables. About 33, so 1 cup of broccoli, 3 grams of protein, 31 calories. It's almost the perfect vegetable. Lean beef, tuna, whey protein supplements. So part of the shake protocol, meal replacement protocol, is almost always protein based. Low carb, moderate protein, no real fat in shakes. Lentils, pumpkin seeds, turkey breast, all types of fish, shrimp, Brussels sprouts, and there's a way to make them so they're not gross, and peanuts. Okay, so those would be moderate protein intake, part of a nutritious diet to help balance hormones. Okay, so I talk about regular exercise, or just exercise in general. The more regular, the better. 3 times a week. Take your phone out, turn on the heart health, or the little, at least on an iPhone, it's a little heart app. It'll measure your steps and tell you how many steps you're taking per day. And when I say exercise, I'm not talking about marathons and bench pressing 300 or 400 pounds, 300 pounds. I don't bench press heavy weights, but you get a better workout and better balance of your hormones if you're doing something aerobic, which can just be walking, and something that's weight resistant, so resistance training. This is especially true for men who are having declining testosterone levels and are worried about taking testosterone. So you improve testicular function and testosterone production by weightlifting. And it doesn't have to be huge weightlifting. It's just push and pull, push and pull. The other benefit of exercise, or one of the benefits, is it reduces insulin levels and increases insulin sensitivity. So we've talked about insulin resistance and that leading to weight gain, obesity, inflammatory fat, etc., and eventually type 2 diabetes after going through the metabolic syndrome. So exercise is helpful. Type 2 diabetics need to exercise, and if you talk to me and work with me, I'll teach you how to eat so you can get off your meds. So a little insulin goes a long way, okay? It takes up sugar out of the bloodstream. It takes up amino acids out of the bloodstream. It's used for energy and maintaining muscle. Okay, high insulin levels though, and we're talking about a fasting insulin level of 20 or greater. So you can do a fasting insulin level along with the hemoglobin A1C and tell how insulin resistant you are. And so high insulin levels and insulin resistance leads to heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, and then insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, eventually type 2 diabetes. Okay, so physical activity reduces fasting insulin levels, improves insulin sensitivity, and we're talking about aerobic exercise, a little strength training, and some endurance. So here's a study, 24-week study of obese women with exercise, regular exercise, where the participants' insulin sensitivity and adiponectin, which is a hormone that has anti-inflammatory effects, those are all increased just from a 24-week exercise regimen. You can also improve the following, and this is muscle maintenance hormones, as well as your sex drive, as well as your anti-aging or age management, because physical activity improves testosterone level, insulin growth factor 1 made in the liver from growth hormone, DHEA, the adrenal hormone associated with fatigue, and then growth hormone itself, the hormone of youth. Okay, so there are people that can improve their growth hormone and IGF-1 levels and testosterone levels just from being physically active. You can take growth hormone. It's expensive. It's off-label. You can also take growth hormone releasing hormone as an injection. Makes you feel wonderful. You can take testosterone. You're worried about all that, just exercise a little bit. Okay? The best results are a combination of a little resistant and aerobic training. Need help? Get yourself a physical fitness trainer. They're not ridiculously expensive. When I lost my 40 pounds, my trainer would not let me do anything training-wise because I wasn't eating enough carbs while I was resetting my leptin level. And leptin comes from fat cells to tell your brain that you're full. So when we're talking about nutritious eating, make sure it takes you 20 minutes to eat. It takes that long for those hormones to tell your brain that everything's fine, you don't need to keep eating. Okay, number 3, avoid sugar. You knew I'm going to say that. And refined processed carbohydrates. Okay, lots of health problems. I've done lots of classes on that. And so you're optimizing hormone levels by avoiding sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Okay, there's natural fructose from fruit and vegetables. You eat those with fiber. We talked about that last week. Okay, and then by avoiding carbohydrates, simple ones, and avoiding sugar and high fructose, you are avoiding obesity, diabetes, lots of chronic diseases. So fructose increases insulin levels. It promotes insulin resistance. And it's actually worse for people that are already obese, or people that are pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, or actually type 2 diabetics. Okay? Fructose is about half of most of the sugars that's in refined carbohydrates because it's cheap and it's sweeter than sugar. Okay? So you can get natural forms of fructose, honey and maple syrup, but then most people are eating basically refined processed table sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Okay? So avoid sugar. You hear me say it and say it and say it. Okay, learn how to manage your stress because that can wreak havoc on your hormones. So 2 specifically, cortisol and adrenaline, which is also known as epinephrine. We talked about that in class last week. So cortisol is the stress hormone because it helps you cope with stress over the long term. What you don't want is to have high cortisol levels throughout the day, especially when you're trying to go to bed. So this is part of the insomnia and sleep disturbance problem. We talked about sleep and physiology yesterday. Adrenaline is your fight or flight response hormone. You get a surge of energy. You know what an adrenaline surge feels like. But most of the time in history, that was triggered by threats from predators. Well, there are predators still around, but most of the time, the stress involved is in your lifestyle. Okay, that fast-paced lifestyle. Got to get it done. Got to get it done. Got to get it done now. And people not taking the time to take the time for themselves. So chronic stress causes cortisol elevation, which can lead to excessive caloric intake and then obesity. Then you get belly fat. Belly fat is inflammatory. It's hard on your heart. Testosterone deficiency does the same thing. That's, you know, people talk about men and their beer bellies or their beer guts. Most of the time, I'm not saying all the time, but most of the time, when I've dealt with men that have suboptimal testosterone levels, they don't drink beer or anything. They don't drink alcohol at all, but they have increased abdominal fat gain, weight gain, and that attacks their heart. So elevated epinephrine levels, since it's fight or flight response, can elevate your blood pressure, raise your heart rate, give you anxiety. They're fairly short-lived because unlike cortisol, adrenaline is less likely to become chronically elevated. If your cortisol is chronically elevated, you're stressing out too much. So you can lower cortisol levels, the chronic elevation, by engaging in stress-reducing techniques. And you know what I'm going to say: meditation, yoga, mindfulness, massage, relaxing music. My massage therapist friends will like this. 2005 review of studies found that massage therapy not only reduced cortisol levels by 31%, but also increased the mood-boosting hormone serotonin, which is what people are taking Prozac and all those SSRIs for. So a massage will raise serotonin levels by 28% and raise dopamine levels by 31% on average. Dopamine is the reward system hormone. Okay? So 10 to 15 minutes a day for yourself doing something stress reducing as an activity. Just take the time. It's 15 minutes. Who doesn't have 15 minutes? Okay, consuming healthy fats. That helps with insulin resistance and appetite. So medium chain triglycerides are taken up directly by the liver for immediate use of energy. They reduce insulin resistance in overweight and obese people, as well as people with type 2 diabetes. Those are found, medium chain triglycerides, coconut oil, which you can just eat. You can take a teaspoon of coconut oil, suppose that it'll help clean your teeth, then you spit it out and actually swallow coconut oil. Palm oil, pure medium chain triglyceride oil, or better yet, dairy fats and monounsaturated fat in olive oil, which I use to cook with I use that to cook with all the time, olive oil. And nuts increase insulin sensitivity, not resistance. Okay? And that's been studied in adults with diabetes, metabolic syndrome, fatty livers, and elevated triglycerides. Olive oil, the perfect cooking oil. Okay? And then if you consume healthy fat in your diet, that triggers the release of the hormones that tell your brain that you're full, so you don't tend to overeat. What you don't want to eat is trans fats. Okay? Those promote insulin resistance and increase the storage of belly fat. So consume a healthy fat source at each meal. Okay? Okay, overeating and undereating. If you do not take 20 minutes to eat your meals, you will overeat for the most part. But if you eat too little for a long period of time, you get the same problem. So overeating raises insulin levels, reduces insulin sensitivity, especially in people that are already overweight or obese or who are insulin resistant. So a study here showed insulin resistant obese adults, so metabolic syndrome, not quite type 2 diabetes, at a 1,300 calorie meal experienced twice the increase in insulin as lean people and metabolically healthy obese people who consumed an identical meal. So if you cut your caloric intake too much, that increases cortisol, which then promotes weight gain. That sounds counterintuitive, but that's how it works. So if you reduce caloric intake to less than 1,200 calories per day for a long period of time, that raises your cortisol levels. Okay, so even low calorie diets can trigger insulin resistance. Okay, so what you're wanting to do is eat 1,200 to 1,500 calories is probably right. And then if you work with me as a health coach, I'll teach you how to do intermittent fasting, and then you don't have to count calories at all. So Dr. Fung from Canada, who has done so much research on one meal a day eating, has found that caloric counting, and actually even weighing yourself, is psychologically sort of bad for you. It's like making you feel like you're failing if you can't stick to the caloric intake. So one meal a day or in intermittent fasting, you just eat, take 20 minutes to eat, and then you stop when you're full. But you don't have to count calories. You just have to get rid of carbs. Okay, green tea, one of the most healthiest beverages around. It boosts your metabolism of caffeine. It has an antioxidant in it. So chronic inflammation is caused by oxidative stress. And so if you drink green tea, it increases sensitivity to insulin and it lowers fasting insulin levels in both people that are healthy and people that have insulin resistant conditions like obesity, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes. So a review of 17 studies shows that green tea lowers fasting insulin levels. Okay? So green tea 1 to 3 times a day. When I was doing my weight loss thing when I was 50, I did drink green tea probably 3 times a day. Okay, number 8 is to eat fatty fish and do it often. Okay, so this one's hard for a lot of people because they don't like fish and seafood, right? So omega-3 fatty acids is what you're after. So if you want to avoid eating fatty fish, you take an omega-3 fish oil supplement. So that's in the full script protocol that I put in for perimenopausal women this morning. There's an omega-3 fish oil. It specifically states if you don't want to eat fish 3 times a week, which is the recommendation, take this omega-3 fish oil. If you're worried about COVID, you take that fish oil or another black seed oil with zinc, and that helps the zinc get into the cell and disrupt viral replication. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of fish oil, but it's also heart healthy. So it helps with hormones. It reduces stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. And in one study showed an increase in performance on men having a mental stress test evaluation. Okay. 3 weeks consuming omega-3 fats in their diet, men showed smaller increases in cortisol and epinephrine during blood testing than when they followed their regular diet. It may reduce insulin resistance related to obesity, polycystic ovary syndrome, and even gestational diabetes for pregnant women. Okay? So in pregnant women, 1,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids for 6 weeks, reductions in insulin levels, insulin resistance, and C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory blood test marker. Okay? So omega-3, usually 2,000 milligrams a day of omega-3 fish oil. Okay, sleep is number 9. We did a whole class on sleep. I've written 2 articles on sleep. Sleep is a big deal. You make your hormones when you're asleep. You also form long-term memories when you're asleep. That was in physiology class yesterday. So So no matter how nutritious you eat and how much exercise you get, your health will suffer if you're not sleeping in a restorative way, or a restorative way. Sorry, that's not a word. Restorative way. So, sleep disturbance imbalances hormones, including insulin, cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, and growth hormone. If you restrict, here's a study in men restricted 5 hours of sleep a night, and their insulin sensitivity decreased by 20% on average. Okay, so they got insulin resistant by a factor of 20%. Okay. If you do a sleep restriction study on healthy young men, leptin levels declined by 18%, ghrelin increased 28%, that makes you hungry, and their hunger increased 24%, and they craved high carbohydrate foods, so sugar, fructose, okay? So it's the quality of sleep as well. So you want uninterrupted sleep, where you go through all the 5 stages of the sleep cycle, non-REM and REM, rapid eye movement sleep. You usually wake up in rapid eye movement sleep. And that's important for the release of growth hormone. So that occurs during the night while you're asleep. So you want 7 to 8 hours. The ideal amount of sleep uninterrupted is 7 hours and 30 minutes. Okay. Number 10, stay away from sugary drinks. So sugar added fruit juice, colas, all that. So soft drinks. Liquid sugar seems to be worse. Diet stuff doesn't work. I showed you a study on, 56,000 people in Europe last spring that showed that consuming more than one diet beverage, so it doesn't have sugar or fructose in it, it's got aspartame or whatever they're using, usually it's aspartame. Consuming more than one of those a month increases risk of death by 40% over time. So, sugary sweet drinks contribute to insulin resistance, weight gain, and obesity, and diet ones are actually worse. So if you had to pick one, you would pick a full sugar, high fructose corn syrup thing, but I told you, drink, and I told you to avoid that overall. But between the aspartame and actually sugar, sugar wins, actually. If you get 25% of your calories and you're overweight, 25% of your calories from high fructose beverages, and you're already overweight, those people have a higher blood insulin fasting level, a reduction in insulin sensitivity, and they store their fat in their belly. And the abdominal fat gain, I tell you, is inflammatory toward the heart. Okay. Number 11, we talked about this with fructose from fruits and vegetables. Consume a high fiber diet. So years and years ago, 100 to 300 grams a day would be ideal. You can reverse diabetes, get rid of your meds in about 1 week if you eat a high fiber diet. Okay? So high fiber increases sensitivity to insulin, so it works better, and it stimulates the production of those hormones that make you feel full, so that you don't overeat. Okay? High soluble fiber tends to produce the strongest effects on appetite and eating. Okay? So a study in overweight and obese people found that consuming a type of soluble fiber that increases protein YY levels, and consuming insoluble fiber, so think of celery, tend to increase glucagon-like protein as well. But both fibers reduce your appetite. Okay? And then number 12, my favorite, eat eggs anytime, however you want. Okay? It's the most nutritious food on the planet. It's the perfect food. Eggs help affect hormones that regulate food intake. They lower levels of insulin ghrelin and increase protein YY that tells your brain you're full. Okay, so you can eat them for breakfast, you can eat them for lunch, you can hard boil them, you can soft boil them. You can fry them in olive oil, perfect way to do it. Okay, so eating whole eggs as part of a low-carb diet increases insulin sensitivity, improves heart markers on lab tests more than a low-carb diet that included only egg whites. So you need the yolks as well. Eat the whole egg. So in general, your hormones are involved in every aspect of your health. Okay, you need them in specific amounts and balanced for your body to be optimally effective in what it's doing. Imbalances lead to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, other health problems, chronic inflammation. And despite the fact that you're going to get older, which you can't control, there are steps you can take without hormones to balance your hormone. And so that was the whole point of today's class, was how do you do this without having to take hormones? So if you want to do it that way, if you want to do it the hormone way, supplement or replacement, you can do that. Like I said again, you can get lots of myths about estrogen and testosterone, just inflammatory stuff that's just not based in the medical research. Testosterone cypionate has been studied since 1939. Okay, all you hear about it at estrogen is you're going to get breast cancer, you're going to get that, the other thing. It's all about balance. You have to balance, and you need somebody to help you figure that out if you're going to go the hormone way. So this is a 30-minute class on how to maybe avoid having to take hormones in the first place, although to me that's ideal. Hormones make the world turn on its axis, in my opinion. My students will tell you that. They've heard me say that quote a million times. So I will talk to you Friday. I am going to St. Louis Friday morning. I'm not sure I'll be on at 9:30, but I'll come up with something to do. Might hit you up and give you a class while I'm in St. Louis. It won't be at 9:30 though. I'll let you know. I'll put it up on Facebook. You all have a great Wednesday. We're halfway through the week, and enjoy this fall weather. It's wonderful. I love it. This is my favorite time of the year. So peace and health to all of you, and I will talk to you Friday sometime. See you later. Bye.